Good day, everybody. This game, Artemiev Vachier-Lagrave from Gibraltar Masters 2019 round 6, got my attention. It has no bright combination, no brilliancies, nothing, and it actually ended in a, well, one might call it a boring draw, but I think there was a lot of things that you can learn from this game, particularly how to play in an open position. The whole game was about equal, but there were subtle details that I would like to share with you. So what I noticed from my experience, if you want to be a good player in open dynamic positions, this is what you gotta do. You gotta consider forcing moves first. If none of the forcing moves seem to be working, then you consider moves that significantly improve your piece or your position in general. Like slow moves, usually there's no time in open positions for slow motion kind of moves. So let's see this game. Artemiev, Vachier-Lagrave, board number 1. Some sort of King's Indian, avoiding Maxim's main weapon, the Grunfeld. Bishop goes to c4. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the opening. There are multiple options for both sides. So e5, fighting for the center, castle, queen e7, and b4. Not sure about b4 move, but it does have some point. It grabs some space on the queen side. So here h6, played by Maxim. Of course, white doesn't want to give up the dark squared bishop, despite what the engine is suggesting, by the way. Bishop h4. So here I think was first critical moment where Maxim, in my opinion, and well, in Houdini's opinion as well, I'm using a cloud remote engine right now. So, first critical moment. We almost finished the development. Now you should consider forcing moves first. Take a look what is the first line of the engine, and I agree with it. I agree. g5. The game was e takes d4, technically a forcing move, but g5 is another forcing move. So bishop g3 is an obvious response, although there was d takes e5 counter attack. But the problem with d takes e5, this diagonal was well weakened by b4 moves. So giving up long diagonal is not a good idea after knight e5. Black has big advantage already. If bishop g3 then takes, black has two bishops, and after something like knight e4, black is close to winning. c3 pawn is collapsing, and two bishops, and bishop on g3 misplaced. If knight takes e5, it's queen e5, and white loses a pawn, and the queen cannot be trapped. White is in trouble. So g5 exclamation mark, forcing the bishop to a passive location. But don't stop here, keep going. e4, knight e1 only move. Keep going, bishop g4, develop a piece with a tempo. What should white do? Well, move like f3, I didn't check. Well, I think I just take, and you have to take with a pawn, because if you take with a piece, I'm gonna eat your pawn on e3, and that's it, and then eat another one on c3. So this is losing, and g takes f significantly weakens this king. And for example, bishop h3, and black's attack would be very strong. If white goes bishop e2, black continues with forcing move, knight d5, followed by f5, maybe f4 in the future, and black seizes initiative here. If white moves the queen to c2, black keeps in that active manner forcing moves that improve the position. d5, and now there's no good place for the bishop. If bishop b3, well, it's already bishop e2 loses in exchange, but in this case white luckily has a nice, well, Petrosian kind of sacrifice. Knight e4, bishop f1, knight f6, queen f6, king f1, and well, two pawns are hanging, and white has enough, or maybe more than enough compensation. So bishop e2, not too good forcing move, but moves that significantly improves the position. For example, rook f2, e8, and black seized a lot of space, and black has a really good position here. f3 and c4 are white ways to open up the position, but both of them look dangerous to me. So black seized a lot of space, and black also has plan f5 in the future, rook a to d8, and then knight from here moves maybe to h5, and white would struggle here. So this is the way Maxim could have played. I'm assuming he was calculating this. It's quite an obvious line to consider. But I noticed that usually in open positions, which is, well, it's not technically an open position, but it can open any minute now, forcing moves first, or the moves that significantly improve your position. So e takes d4 slightly loses the control over the center. Bishop f5, develop a piece, significant improvement of the position. b5, forcing move. Knight goes to a5, where else? Rook e1, forcing move. Queen d7, keeping the bishop. Well, usually in open positions you shouldn't give up to bishops. Bishop f1. And now Maxime played a6, which is technically a forcing move, but after b takes a6, b takes a6, it's white to move, and actually pawn on a6 needs protection. So I'm not sure if a6 is a good move. A good alternative would have been another forcing move, g5, forcing the bishop to a bad location, and then improving one of the rooks. And I think black is better here, because this bishop on g3 literally has no good move. This knight on f3 has no place to go. This pawn on b5 is long way away from his pieces, and white has to be very careful here. Black any moment can eat this bishop and claim to bishop advantage. Black also still has a6 ideas, or just playing in the center also makes sense. I think white's position is not very pleasant. White can try queen a4, black would go b6, and then maybe knight would go to d5 in the future. I'm not a big fan of white's position. The engine says h3. I don't know about that. Well, probably he wants to keep this bishop alive, but h3 always g4 would be in the air. I'm not a big fan of white's position, although the engine gives around zeros, but I think black is slightly better here. So, but after a6, another forcing move, another forcing move. Here Vladislav played knight b3, which is also forcing, but it loses a little bit of time. Slightly better version was another forcing move, bishop f6, knight e4 forcing move. Well, if black takes, white take, and well, basically white has a better bishop then. Black's bishop is very restricted by these pawns, right? And white's bishop has potential. There's a weak pawn here, there's some weakness on this diagonal. White's position is slightly better. And if black moves the bishop, white plays another move, for example, knight g3 with similar ideas. If black tries to keep the bishop, whites go h4 and h5 and try to claim advantage on white squares. And black's position is not very pleasant. But all of them, most of these moves were forcing and extremely active. So let's see what happened next. Knight b3, forcing move by Maxime. A takes b3, and now I think knight d5 was slightly more accurate, because it significantly improves the knight with the tempo, right? Knight in the center usually feels well. c4 weakens this diagonal a lot. I'm not a big fan of this move. Now this bishop is powerful. Knight b4, knight gets an outpost. Jumps here, that's not a good idea. So pawn is hanging, needs protection. How do you protect it? For example, if queen d2, then unlike in the games, this knight on f3 literally has no good moves. It cannot move backwards, and black can play, for example, a5 followed by rook fb8, and I think black can claim some advantage. Black's pieces are much better placed. This is a bad piece and this is a bad piece, and there's a weakness on b3 and c3 that need protection. Queen c6 or b8 are possibilities for black. So I think knight d5 forcing moves that improves the piece was better. The engine says maybe rook c1 was better, but now you're not putting pressure on my a6 pawn, so not sure how to continue. Either rook e8. Take a look. The rook e8 is the best move. g5 is another alternative. Forcing move, or a move that significantly improves the position. A move a5 significantly improves the position, because now this rook from a8 is free to go. The pawn is not hanging, and a future outpost on b4 is well fixed. So forcing moves first, or the moves significant, and after that the moves that significantly improve your position. a5 improves the position, but not significantly. So knight d2, knight has nothing to do on f3, knight is going looking for better life. Forcing move g5, improving the rook, open file, forcing move, queen f3 forcing move, bishop e6, And now when I check this game, I didn't even look at the engine. I've seen like h3 he played, Vladislav played. I think he spent quite some time on this h3 move. I was like, hold on, this is not forcing, this is not significantly improving the position. It cannot be the best move in the position. And when I checked with the engine, yeah, I was right. The best move was, surprise, surprise, forcing move bishop b5. The rook needs protection, so black cannot capture. White seizes initiative, not more than that. But bishop b5 seizes initiative. Black should go queen c8, which is not an obvious move to play. If black goes bishop d5, white wins a pawn, intermediate check, and g takes f3, important move because if black goes knight d5, white has knight e4 protecting the weak pawn. And white claims some advantage due to extra pawn, although drawing chances are very high here. If black goes queen c8, white makes another forcing move, bishop c6. And here, if black plays just a passive move, rook a7, white is just better because white significantly improved the bishop with the tempo, moved the queen away from e8 and rook to a7. Rook is weird, and white has active pieces, thus white is better. For example, h4 makes sense, and well, try to create another weakness here. And if g4, now the king side is compromised in black's position. White is slightly better. The engine says black has to go g4 here, but I'm not sure if people can play like that. At least wait for h4, right? But here it says g4, and that's fine. The thing is, rook wants to go to a6, and with queen on f3 there would be bishop b7, so rook a6 is a horrible blunder. Bishop b7, but if you kick the queen away first, and if it goes to d3, black can go rook a6 or queen a6, bishop b5, queen b7, and black has some compensation for damaged pawn structure. But I think white is still better here. So white definitely seizes the initiative here. So bishop b5 maybe was the last moment in the game where white could have seized something. h3 a little bit too slow, and after that basically every single move was either forcing or dealing with the threat, improving the position. Take a look. These were not only moves by no means, but this is the way you should be playing in open positions. Bishop d5, forcing move. Queen goes to active square on f5. Queen c6 with a tempo. Queen attacks the pawn. Queen comes back to d3, dealing with the threat. a4, forcing move. You want to win the pawn on b3, right? White goes c4, another forcing move. 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 And forcing move. Actually, another forcing move, h4, and after queen c5, they agreed for a draw because this is different colored bishops and the position is equal. White would play bishop d3, queen f3, and that would be a draw. So it would be great if one of them would win, and that would prove some point. But there are a lot of situations from which you can learn in this game how to play in open position. Forcing moves first, moves that significantly improve one of your pieces or your position in general. If none of those moves work, then you play a move like h3, like Vladislav played. Only then, active, aggressive thinking first. That is the way to deal with most open positions. In fact, in closed position it's also a good idea, but there are not too many forcing options and you can actually take your time. In open positions, the default setting should be no, I do not have time, I have to do something right away. Okay, thanks for watching. Subscribe, share news about my channel with your friends. Take care, I'll see you shortly.